Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how sometimes you look at your plants and they're just not looking their best?
Yeah, definitely.
It can be so frustrating. Like, what are you trying to tell me?
Right.
And one of the biggest mysteries for a lot of gardeners is those yellow leaves.
Ugh, the dreaded yellow leaves.
So today, we are diving deep into that, figuring out what causes those yellow leaves, and more importantly, how to fix them,
Sounds good.
especially when it comes to something called nitrogen deficiency.
Yeah. Nitrogen is crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely. And to help us break it all down, I've got an expert here with me today.
Hi, everyone.
So let's start with the basics. Why is nitrogen so important for plants? I mean, why do they even need it?
Well, think of nitrogen as the building block for healthy plants.
Okay.
It's essential for making chlorophyll.
And chlorophyll is what gives them that nice green color.
Exactly. It's what allows plants to make food through photosynthesis.
Oh, right. So without enough nitrogen, the whole system kind of breaks down.
Exactly. Growth slows down, they might not flower as much or produce as much fruit.
And the leaves start to turn yellow.
Yep. Instead of that vibrant green, they become pale and yellow.
So, okay, if we're seeing yellow leaves, it's a good sign we might have a nitrogen problem.
Could be, yeah.
But how can we be sure? Are there any specific signs to look for?
Absolutely. One key thing to notice is which leaves are turning yellow first.
Okay, so it matters which leaves.
If it's the older, lower leaves, starting from the tip and moving inward, that's classic nitrogen deficiency.
Interesting. So it's like the plant is sacrificing the old leaves.
Kinda, yeah. Like it's trying to conserve the little nitrogen it has for the new growth.
Plants are so smart.
They have their own survival mechanisms, for sure.
That's so cool. So let's say we've done our investigation and yeah, we're pretty sure it's nitrogen deficiency. What can we do about it?
Well, there are a lot of great organic solutions. One of the best is compost.
Compost. It seems like compost is the answer to everything in gardening.
It really is amazing. It's like a slow-release fertilizer that's packed with nutrients, including nitrogen.
So it gives the plants a nice steady supply of what they need.
Exactly. It's like giving them a healthy meal that keeps them going for a long time.
And it's great for the soil too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It improves soil structure, helps it retain water, and encourages all those beneficial microbes.
So it's a win-win all around. What if we need something a little faster acting though?
Well, then there are other organic fertilizers we can use. Things like blood meal, fish emulsion, feather meal.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
These are all derived from natural sources, unlike synthetic fertilizers.
Right.
And they break down pretty quickly, so they give the plants a fast nitrogen boost.
It's like an energy drink for our plants.
Exactly.
But wait, I remember you mentioned something earlier called legumes.
Oh, yeah, legumes. They're a really cool solution.
How do they work?
They have this superpower where they host nitrogen-fixing bacteria in their roots.
No way.
Yeah.
Bacteria that can actually make nitrogen.
Well, they convert atmospheric nitrogen, which plants can't use directly, into a form they can absorb.
So it's like having tiny little fertilizer factories in your soil.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. So just by planting beans or clover alongside our other plants, we're actually helping them get more nitrogen.
Yep. It's a perfect example of how nature works.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, it can be a bit overwhelming trying to keep track of all these different options.
I understand. That's where technology can play a really helpful role.
Okay, tell me more.
There's a company called Farmonaut, and they're doing some incredible things with technology to help farmers, both conventional and organic.
I've heard of Farmonaut. Don't they use satellites?
Yes, they use satellites to monitor plant health from space.
Wait, seriously? Satellites can tell how healthy my plants are.
It's pretty amazing. They can actually detect signs of stress, like nutrient deficiencies, before we can even see them.
Whoa, so our plants are sending out signals that can be seen from space.
They are. And Farmonaut is using that information to help farmers take action early.
So it's like an early warning system for our gardens. That's mind-blowing.
It is pretty incredible. It means we can address problems before they become major issues.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more about how this all works.
Well, it all starts with the way plants reflect light.
Light.
Yeah, they reflect different wavelengths of light depending on how healthy they are.
So when they're stressed, the light changes.
Exactly. And those subtle changes can be detected by satellites.
It's like plants are talking to us in a secret language.
That's a great way to put it. And Farmonaut is listening in and translating that language for us.
That's so cool. But it's one thing to detect a problem. It's another to know what to do about it. How does Farmonaut help with that?
Well, that's where their AI comes in. They take all the data from the satellites and combine it with information about the specific crop, the soil type, the weather, even the farmer's past practices.
So it's personalized advice.
Exactly. It's like having a custom farming plan delivered right to your smartphone.
Wow. And this works for both conventional and organic farms.
It does. It's about helping farmers make the best decisions for their crops, regardless of their approach.
I love that. It's like bridging the gap between different farming methods.
Exactly. And it's all thanks to the power of technology.
This is all so fascinating. I can't wait to learn more about how it works in practice.
Me too. Let's dive into that next.
Sounds good to me. Hashtag TTS, the deep dive episode 2024-1108, part 2 of 3. Okay, so we were talking about Farmonaut and how they use this amazing technology to monitor plant health from space. So for someone like me, who's not a farmer, how does all this actually work?
Well, it all comes down to the light that plants reflect. It might sound strange, but healthy plants actually reflect light differently than stressed plants.
Really? I never knew that.
It's true. And the cool thing is these subtle changes in the light they reflect, those can be picked up by satellites.
So Farmonaut satellites are basically looking for these little changes in light.
Exactly. It's like having these high-tech eyes in the sky that can see things we can't from the ground.
Wow. And all this because of light. It's amazing what technology can do these days.
It really is. And it's not just about detecting the problem. Farmonaut also helps farmers figure out how to solve it.
Right. So what happens once they detect something like a nitrogen deficiency? What's the next step?
Well, that's where their AI-powered advice comes in.
AI, like artificial intelligence.
Yep. They have this super smart system that takes all the data from the satellites and combines it with other information like the type of crop, the soil, the weather, you name it.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, not at all. It's tailored to each specific farm and situation.
That's incredible. So it's kind of like having a personalized farming coach.
You could say that. And the best part is it works for both conventional and organic farming.
I love that. So whether you're using synthetic fertilizers or going the organic route, Farmonaut can help.
Exactly. It's about giving farmers the tools they need to make the best decisions, no matter their approach.
This is really fascinating. So let's say I'm a farmer and I'm interested in using Farmonaut. What would I need to do?
It's actually pretty easy to get started. Farmers can just sign up online and Farmonaut walks them through the whole process. They help set up the monitoring and everything.
That sounds simple enough. So they get all set up, Farmonaut keeps an eye on things from space, and then they get this personalized advice, right?
Yep, that's the gist of it.
It sounds almost too good to be true. But I guess that's the power of technology, right? It can really make things easier and more efficient.
It can, especially in farming, which can be so unpredictable.
Right. Like the weather, for example. There's only so much you can control.
Exactly. But with Farmonaut, farmers can at least get a heads up about potential problems and take action before it's too late.
So it's like having an extra layer of security.
It is. It helps farmers feel more confident and in control.
This is really cool. And to think, it all started with something as simple as light. I guess there really is so much more to plants than meets the eye.
There really is. They're full of secrets just waiting to be discovered.
Well, I, for one, am excited to see where this technology goes in the future. Imagine what else we might learn.
I know, right? The possibilities are endless. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and get back to those practical tips we were talking about earlier. Those organic solutions that anyone can use to boost nitrogen levels naturally.
Yes. Let's get back to that. I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more. Hashtag TTS, the deep dive episode 2024-1108, part 3 of 3. All right, so we've talked about some pretty amazing tech that can help us keep our plants healthy.
Yeah, that Farmonaut stuff is really impressive.
But let's not forget about the tried and true organic methods for tackling those yellow leaves.
Exactly. There's a lot we can do right in our own gardens.
We talked about compost before the break and how it's like this slow-release fertilizer.
Right, giving those plants a nice, balanced diet.
But I know there's more to it than just throwing scraps in a pile.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely a bit of an art to composting.
So what are some key things to keep in mind?
Well, it's all about finding the right balance of ingredients. You've got your greens, which are those nitrogen-rich materials like grass clippings and food scraps.
Okay.
And then you need your browns, the carbon-rich stuff like dry leaves and shredded paper.
So it's like a recipe. What happens if we get the proportions wrong?
Too much nitrogen and things can get a little smelly. You might attract pests.
Uh-oh.
Too much carbon and it'll decompose super slowly.
So what's the magic ratio?
Ideally, around 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So once our compost is all cooked and ready to go, how do we actually use it?
You can mix it right into the soil before you plant or top dress your garden beds with it. There's also compost tea.
Compost tea.
You steep the compost in water and use that to water your plants. It's like a nutrient-rich tonic.
Oh, cool. What about those legumes, those natural nitrogen fixers?
Ah, legumes. They're so versatile. You can include them in your crop rotation.
Like plant them after something that used up a lot of nitrogen.
Exactly. They help replenish the soil. It's like giving it a nitrogen boost.
That's pretty clever. Any other ways to use them?
You can intercrop.
Intercropping.
That means planting them right alongside your other crops. So picture beans growing between your tomato plants.
Oh, I see. They're like little nitrogen factories working behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's all about helping plants support each other.
I love that idea. So we've got compost, we've got legumes. What about those organic fertilizers we talked about?
Right. There are a lot of options, so it's good to understand how they work.
So how do we choose the right one?
Well, you've got your fast-acting ones like blood meal or fish emulsion. Those give a quick nitrogen hit.
Okay.
Then there are the slow-release ones like
Mm.
feather meal or alfalfa meal.
So like a quick boost versus a slow and steady release.
Exactly. It depends on what your plants need and when you're applying it.
This is a lot to take in, but in a good way.
Mm.
It's amazing how many options there are for natural gardening.
It really is. And when we combine this ancient wisdom with the power of technology, that's where things get really exciting.
Yeah, those plant whispering satellites we talked about are just the beginning.
Imagine an app that tells you exactly what nutrients your plants need just by looking at a picture of their leaves.
Wow. Or a sensor that lets you know exactly when to water.
It's not science fiction anymore. This stuff is coming. It's going to revolutionize how we garden.
It's amazing to think about. I feel like we're on the cusp of something really special, blending technology and nature to create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. And it all starts with us, right here in our gardens, paying attention to our plants, learning what they need.
It's about becoming better stewards of the earth.
One garden, one plant at a time.
Well said. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into battling yellow leaves.
I hope you learned some helpful tips.
We certainly did. Remember, keep observing, keep experimenting, keep learning.
Your plants will thank you for it.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll all have our own personal plant whispering satellites.
Until then, happy gardening, everyone.
See you next time.